Welcome to the Gyrl podcast, the show where purpose meets inspiration. Each week, I sit down with incredible guests who open up about their real life journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the lessons in between. Whether you're navigating entrepreneurship, personal growth, or career moves, you're in the right place. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go out together. All right, so happy Thursday. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Hope your week is being very kind and good to you. Before we get started, I just want to keep telling you about this great resource that I have for you. If you're someone who's out there and you're saying, this is the year that I'm going to go on more shows like Glow Up Gyrl. This is the year that I'm going to do a TED Talk. I'm going to speak more. But you're not really sure on what that story looks like. So I have a free resource that you can check out in the show notes that will help you get clear on your story and how you share it. All right, let's talk about today's episode. I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Cheryl Dillon. Cheryl is a life coach, writer, speaker, and founder of, I love this, Funderful Experiences, where she helps women create midlife chapters that are joyful, vibrant, and intentional. She is the co-founder of Equitable Mediation Services. Blech. Get that out, Kyra. Co-founder of Equitable Mediation Services, where she has spent nearly 2 decades coaching individuals through the emotional complexities of separation and divorce. Cheryl rejects the idea that midlife is a period of decline and sees it instead as a season full of possibility built on authenticity, belonging, and self-trust. So today, Cheryl's coming into the show and we're going to talk about becoming your own best friend. What a concept! Cultivating real connection and friendship in midlife. All right, so let's grab Cheryl and bring her into the show. All right, welcome back, everyone, and let's welcome Cheryl to the show. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you, Kyra. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So many good things we're going to talk about today. But before we dive in, let's have you tell our audience listening or watching who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Cheryl Dillon. I'm a life coach, the founder of Funderful Experiences, and someone who's passionate about helping people create more meaningful connection in their lives. My work focuses on 2 things that I believe are really essential to our well-being, and that's connection with ourselves and connection with others. And through coaching, speaking, and community experiences, I help people navigate life transitions, strengthen relationships, and build lives that feel more fulfilling and connected. A bunch of years ago, after moving to California from Chicago, and then before that, New Jersey, working from home and really finding myself surprisingly disconnected, I realized how many other people were experiencing the same thing. And that's really what led me to create Funderful Experiences and Connected Hearts, a community designed to help women cultivate genuine friendships, personal growth, and joy in midlife.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. First of all, everyone, how cute is Funderful Experiences? You have to tell us where did that name come from.
Uh, you know, um, Usually in the morning is when I'm the most relaxed because it's
Mhm,
before the day takes off.
mhm.
And I was sitting and having breakfast with my husband, and it was, Sunday morning, and we were just kind of scrolling through our phones and reading some articles, trying to find the positive ones. And I read an article about how baby boomers and people who are kind of, getting on in life, they're not looking for material possessions anymore. They're not climbing any ladder and looking to, achieve higher social status.
Mhm.
The article said what they're really looking for are meaningful experiences. And so meaningful experiences just kind of sat with me for a little while. And then I was doing a jigsaw puzzle because, again, I feel like when you're doing that, you can't be worrying. So I was doing a jigsaw puzzle and I was really just sitting with that meaningful experiences, meaningful experiences. And then I said, well, yes, I want to do something like that with my new company, but I want it to also be fun. And I don't know, just kinda clicked, and I yelled into the other room, "What do you think of Funderful Experiences?" And that was it.
Oh, I love it. That's such a meaningful story. So I love that how you
Yeah.
came to that. Yeah, well let's dive in because I think this is a topic that a lot of people struggle with connection. And I think it's so important to talk about the fact that there is still like a loneliness epidemic in the world. People are still lonely. I think people forget that just because people, the pandemic ended, people went back outside. But like you mentioned, so many more people work from home now. So many people just found solace in home during that time. And it's been hard for them to like get back out and connect.
Yeah.
It's and especially when you think about women, right? So why do you think so many women find that making real friendships becomes harder in midlife, even when they have a lot of people around them?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that comes up so often. Um, really, I think, like you said, Kyra, one of the biggest misconceptions is that being surrounded by people automatically creates connection.
Mhm,
And, many of us are surrounded by acquaintances, coworkers, neighbors, family members, or just people they see regularly, but they don't necessarily feel known by those
right.
people and they
Mhm,
don't necessarily know those people. And when we're younger, friendship really happens naturally because we're in school or not me personally, but many of my friends, raising children,
mhm,
building careers, or participating in activities that create repeated interaction.
mhm,
Think about all the hours of the day we would be in school. And so, just by that ease of being surrounded by these kids for such a long period of time, it was more natural for friendships to form and to
mm,
grow. And we really just don't have that anymore. And at the same time, for all of us, life has gotten so busy. I feel like, it's gotten just markedly busier
yeah,
as I've gotten older, but many women are in my age group are caring for aging parents. They're supporting adult children. They're managing their careers. They're navigating relationship changes like separation, divorce,
mhm,
perhaps losing a partner, being a widow, and really trying to take care of themselves somewhere among all of that. So friendships really shift from something that happens organically to something that really requires intention. And
mhm,
the challenge is that most people are waiting for the friendships to happen while, friendship in midlife really requires someone to kind of go first and set an intention and take some action.
yeah. Oh, yes, I agree with you. And I think that is so, I like the intention part. And I'm glad you called that out because I think people, like you said, when you're younger, like you have these occurrences where you just see people all the time and you don't have to try as hard.
Yeah.
And now as we get older, you have to be intentional. You have to make time for the people that you say you want to be friends with. So that's why I'm always like, well, and I get it because, like, yes, everybody's busy, but
Yeah.
we all make time for the things that are important to us.
Yeah.
So when someone is trying to establish a friendship with you, uh, amidst the busy schedule or a busy life, like, it's still about the intention. It's like setting aside, 5 minutes a day. Like, I have this thing that I do with one of my friends that, like, we just decided, like, we leave each other voice messages, and we leave voice
Yeah.
messages throughout the day, and that's our thing, and we usually see each other at Sundays on church, but, like, we are intentional about, like, checking in daily with these messages, even if we can't talk, because we figured we were like, "Yeah, you're busy, I'm working in the day, you're working, so here's what we're gonna do." And it just works so perfectly.
Yeah, but you see, right, it's like when we were younger, we really didn't have to give any thought to it. The friendships just happened, and now, like you're saying, and I couldn't agree more, it actually is work, and it's like another job, but it's something that if it's very important to you,
Mhm.
you need to carve the time for it and prioritize it, and that's a whole 'nother story, right? It's,
Mhm.
I love what you're saying about the voice messages. I know you're younger than me. We didn't do that when I was younger. We just picked up the phone. Now everybody's texting. It's like whatever is your preferred way to communicate or stay in touch. It's like anything is better than nothing. And if that method works for both of you, then it's great that you kind of have this standing, regular check in period because the connection, you know, it needs to, you can't just have coffee every once in a while. It really just requires some regularity and consistency and reciprocity in order for things to stay connected and grow.
Exactly. So, what's the difference between so you've got the casual socializing and the kind of environment where like genuine friendships can really grow?
Yeah. So, it's something that I think about all the time because it's really at the heart of the community that I've created.
Mhm.
Casual socializing is wonderful, but it really often stays at the level of exchanging information, right? We talk about our jobs or our kids or where we traveled or what we're watching on Netflix. But genuine friendship grows when people begin sharing experiences, thoughts, feelings, challenges, hopes, dreams, and having fun together. So, and as I just said, right, it requires consistency. And most friendships aren't formed through one deep conversation. They're built through a series of meaningful interactions over
Mhm.
time. And I think that also the environment matters because if everybody's distracted, rushed, they're worried about fitting in, or they're always looking at their phones, the connection tends to stay very shallow. But when people feel welcomed and included, and they feel safe enough to just be themselves, then something different happens. And the conversation naturally becomes more authentic, and the friendships really have a better opportunity to be cultivated and nurtured.
Yeah, I love that because I agree with you. I think it's like when there's a safe space created, when people feel seen
Yeah.
and heard by others, like those are the things that actually really help to grow those friendships. They leave that like, the surface level. Um
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And you see, like, one person has to go first in doing that, being vulnerable, sharing something real about themselves. It gives everybody else permission to do the same.
Mhm.
And of course, there's a lot more to cultivating those safe environments. It's
Right.
something that I'm very deliberate about with the Connected Hearts community. Um, you know, we have kind of this promise that
Mm.
we all follow, right? There's other things that keep the space safe and respectful. But it's it's really, we all have people when we're around them, for whatever is the reason we feel like we can't be ourselves, or we just feel insecure, or maybe that there's competition or something that's going on that's just not making us feel safe enough to be ourselves.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't even know who we are, so that's a whole, again, we have to work on that
Right.
also. But I think that if the if you are the person who's vulnerable first, or you share something with somebody that's, again, a little bit below the surface, you don't have to tell them your childhood traumas, but you can say something other than weather, traffic, just the surface level
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, not everybody's going to feel comfortable with that, or not everybody's going to know how to do that back, but you still have to be so comfortable with yourself that it's okay,
Mhm.
that you continue to be yourself, because the right people will be attracted to you. You will find your
Yeah.
people, and then the more you're surrounded by people who are like you in terms of shared values or authenticity, you're gonna even be able to relax more,
Yeah.
and again, let those friendships really develop.
Yeah. I think that there's something in it that you say that I really love, is that you say that being a friend to yourself is the prerequisite for being a good friend to others. And I love that. What does that mean and look like in practice?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. And so, if you think about it, many of us spend years being so compassionate toward other people while being very hard on ourselves.
Mhm.
We encourage our friends or our children or our partner. We
Mhm.
forgive them. We celebrate them. And yet, at the same time, we criticize ourselves for making mistakes, second guessing our decisions, and telling ourselves we're not doing enough, right? We have this horrible inner critic that's always saying very mean things.
Yes.
And so it's so hypocritical, right? We're so kind and supportive of the people we care about, but not ourselves. And so, to me, being a friend to yourself means treating yourself with that same kindness and patience and understanding that you offer somebody else that you love and care about. And, it also means knowing yourself. And I've kind of mentioned a little this before. The better we understand our own needs, our values, our boundaries, our emotions, how they fluctuate, and why, the more capable we're going to be of showing up authentically in our relationships.
Mhm.
And so I feel like healthy friendships, they're not built by losing yourself, they're
Yes.
built by bringing your whole self, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, Cheryl. Like, I first of all, I love that because I think that is so important. It's so important to show up. One thing I think that I always say, like, the older you get, the wiser, I should say. You get like you show up as who you are. Like for me, I'm like, well, you get me, and that's who I am. Like I'm not gonna be somebody else. And it's like either you're going to like me or you're not. Either I'm your type of person or I'm not gonna be your type of person. But I refuse to not show up as my whole self, like as Kyra. And I think like and I know that's something that happens with growth, right? And evolution over time as we mature and learn. Because when you're your 20s and 30s, you're still sort of like figuring it out and trying to figure out like who am I? And then by the time you hit that like in the 40s, boy, I feel like it. And I tell people this, I'm like, you hit that stride. Like something turns on and you're like full speed ahead. Like I know me, I know who I am, I know what I bring to a relationship, a partnership, whatever. And it's so much easier to show up authentically as you when you truly like wholly like love who you are as a person.
I agree. The one thing I will say, and I actually just wrote about I write a weekly newsletter, and this week is the 1 year anniversary of writing it. And
Oh,
so this morning,
listen.
the issue came out, and one of the things I was writing about is how, being comfortable in your own skin, and it's like you're always a work in progress,
Mhm.
because even for me, if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, if I'm like really having a bad day, if I just got off the phone with my mother, to remember who I am and to
Yeah.
stay comfortable in my own skin is more challenging. And I think, again, none of us are perfect, but um, I can recognize when I'm feeling like I'm out of my integrity, or I can recognize like I shouldn't interact with people right now because I'm really not myself. Like I know I need rest, or I know I need a break, or whatever. So even when you know those things about yourself, which I agree with you, 40s, it was like all of a sudden, I feel a little, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
But you still are going to have times where you're questioning yourself, or you're still going to have
Mhm.
times where you're feeling insecure, or your self esteem is going to be suffering. But I think it's kind of like how yoga's a practice. It's just all about being really tuned into yourself and knowing what your needs are, knowing what you need in order to replenish, recharge your battery, and get back to that calm and being able to be your true self.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's talk about some shifts. So, what are small shifts that people can make, as they look to try to grow deeper relationships, so that they do move beyond like that surface small talk toward
Yeah.
building a deeper connection with people? And I know you kind of touched on, the vulnerability
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's a big one. And I think also like a lot of people, they tend to overcomplicate this. You really don't have to ask intensely personal questions 5 minutes
Mhm.
after you meet somebody, you know. And I mean, we've all had people where we just meet them and they're telling us things, and are we're just like, "Oh, how am I going to get out of this conversation? This is too much." But I think it's really moving from facts to experiences. So, for example, in our country, it's a big deal. You meet somebody, what do you say? What do you do? right?
Mhm.
There's so much wrapped up in your identity. What do you do?
Mhm.
Instead of saying that, or right after that, saying, what do you enjoy most about that?
Mhm.
Or instead of asking somebody, have you lived here for a long time? Say something like, what brought you here? Or what's been the best part of living here? So people really connect through stories. And, that's one. It's like asking better questions that
Mhm.
are open ended and that really enable you to get to know that person. And everybody loves to talk about themselves. And so,
Right.
they're gonna talk, and it's okay, like, you don't have to be the most interesting person, but you have to be the most interested person, right? And then you're gonna
Mhm.
make this meaningful connection.
Mhm.
And if you're talking to somebody else who's a good conversationalist, they're not gonna monopolize the conversation, they're gonna turn it back and ask you questions also, but
Mm.
it's asking better questions, open-ended, that starts with what or how.
Mhm.
And also, it's, as I said before, we talked about, right? It's being willing to share something real yourself.
Mhm.
So when one person goes first and they share something honest, as I said, it really gives everybody else permission to do the same. So you're modeling,
Mhm.
and if you are the kind of person, like I'm the kind of person where I have very little tolerance for small talk. I personally would rather be home on the couch with a bowl of
Mhm.
popcorn watching TV. Like, I just don't, it's not my thing. I like to connect with people. And so if if you are looking for these deeper connections, you're going to want to find people who are interested also in what you're seeking in the friendship. And they're going to ask you those kind of questions back. And you're going to see how quickly you make these meaningful connections. And then, of course, after, you need to cultivate them and nurture them. But it's a great start, right, to
Mhm.
connect this way.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
So let's also talk about being in that idea of sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes people can be led to believe that, getting to that midlife point is like the season where everything goes downhill. It's the decline. You reject that idea. I do as well. How can women start to see it as a chapter full of possibility and not like, oh my gosh, my life is ending?
Yeah, it's really, I have to say, you mentioned about 40s. I'm in my 50s, and, this is hard because I remember being a little girl, and I would look at my parents, and they would be in their 50s, and I would be like, "They're old." You know?
Yes.
So this is really, it's a hard pill to swallow, but, you know in some ways, I watched my grandmother, who was this really vibrant woman, and then as she got older into her 70s, her 80s, I would go visit her, and she just would always be home in her chair watching TV. She didn't wanna leave the house anymore. It was such a big shift from what I remember of her when I
Mhm.
was little. And I see some other closer family members doing the same thing. When I
Mhm.
see it, it's like cold water, and it
Right.
really jolts me, like, I don't want that. I
Right.
can't start to make changes about it then, I need to do it now. And so, a lot of the things I've been doing over the past, I'd say 2 years, is because I'm laying a foundation for not only this chapter, but also all the chapters that come next. You have to
Mhm.
do it now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think that, a lot of women, especially women in midlife, we've been sold this story that
Mhm.
midlife is about loss. You're not looking forward to getting your driver's license anymore. That happened, or being able to drink, or getting married if that's something important to you, or
Mhm.
having a career. Like, all these big milestones. If you kind of think about it, it's like, well, what's left? You're going to die, So you don't want that one. But there's a lot of grieving in
Yeah.
midlife. There's a loss of youth. There's a loss of a perceived relevance. There's a perceived loss of opportunity. Oh, it's too late for me to have pursued
Mhm.
blank. That's my path. I'm too old. It's too late.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what I see is something very different. I see women starting businesses, you know,
Mhm.
myself included, pursuing passions, traveling, volunteering, learning new skills, leaving unhealthy situations,
Mhm.
building new friendships, and discovering parts of themselves they didn't have time to explore when they were younger. And so for me, personally, some of the most exciting things I've done happened after age 50. I
Mm,
started voice lessons. I went stand-up paddleboarding after wanting to do it for a gazillion years. I went
mm.
back to school for event planning. I launched a
Yes.
new business. So
Yeah.
I don't see midlife as the end of the story. I see it as the chapter where we finally have the freedom, perspective, and wisdom to start
Mhm.
writing the chapter ourselves, if you know?
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like you looks like
I
you understand and agree.
yes, already there, already
Yeah,
writing. I love that. Okay, let's talk about if someone, is listening to us and they're like, okay, Cheryl, like I hear you, and I'm craving these deeper friendships, but they don't know where to start. What would you encourage them to do first?
yeah, well, the first is get off the couch. But I would encourage them to stop waiting. In other
Mhm.
words, most people think they're the only one looking for the deeper connection, and
Right.
they're not. In fact, it could be the woman sitting next to you at a community event,
Mhm.
or the woman in your church, or the
Mhm.
neighbor you wave to every morning when you're walking your dog, or the acquaintance that you've always enjoyed just chit-chatting with. A
Mhm.
lot of these people, they're looking for the exact same thing you are. And maybe they're afraid of rejection, or they're shy, or they're just introverted. They just don't feel comfortable. So you do it. Reach out, invite somebody to coffee, join a group, attend an event, say yes to something that you
Mhm.
normally wouldn't say yes to, start volunteering. And if you're nervous, do it anyway. Some of the best things in life start on the other side of that moment when we're willing to
Mhm.
just be a little brave and say yes and do something.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. Well, why don't you tell us about how to get to Funderful Experiences? And I know you talked about your Connected Hearts community. So, how can people, join? How can they get involved, sign up, and where
Yeah.
can they find you and connect?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Funderful Experiences was created around a simple belief that when we're genuinely connected to ourselves, each other, and our community, life is just better, happier, more fulfilling. And so, our signature offering is Connected Hearts. It's a community for women in their 50s to mid 60s who are looking for meaningful connection, personal growth, and a more fulfilling midlife.
Mhm.
I am noticing that, so for us, we kind of are in the sweet spot between personal development and community.
Mhm.
Every month, we gather around topics that many women are navigating in midlife, things like self trust,
Mhm.
friendship, boundaries, transitions, purpose,
Mhm.
resilience, and really creating a chapter they're excited to live. What makes it different is that the gatherings are intentionally designed and facilitated. So people don't just show up and have to make small talk. It's really facilitating every element. So through thought-provoking conversations, engaging activities, fresh perspective, and practical tools, they're able to reflect on their lives, learn from one another, and often see things in a completely new way. And
Mhm.
so, one of my ways to describe it, because it's so hard to describe, it's that it's personal growth disguised as a really enjoyable evening. And
I like that.
and while many wonderful friendships form, the
Mhm.
friendship isn't actually the product, it's the outcome. And so the real purpose is helping women navigate midlife with more confidence, connection, and joy. Those
Mhm.
friendships are gonna grow naturally because women are sharing meaningful experiences together over time. Basically, all the things you and I have been talking about, right? That
Mhm.
consistency, vulnerability, the shared experiences,
Mhm.
and fun. So, as far as Connected Hearts goes, right now it takes place in person in my local area in Southern California. However, an online version is coming. And so, if you go to my website, funderfulexperiences.com, in the main navigation is Connected Hearts. And on that page, you can learn a little bit more about it. And there's a CTA to click through and put your name on a waiting list for the online version, which I'm expecting to launch probably sometime in the fall.
Okay.
Um, I also have been thinking that these issues that we talk about, they're
Mhm.
really not um, solely midlife issues. They're
Oh, for
women
sure.
issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been asking me, "Oh, can I join or can you make one for my age group?" Uh, the one thing about, our community is these women actually like that everybody's in the same age stage.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
the number age, it's where they are in life.
Right.
Um, but I do have intentions of creating more connected hearts communities for women in their 40s, women in their 70s. Again, these issues might
Mhm.
slightly change, but there's some that are always the same. And
Right.
so it really can transfer. So if you're interested, I would suggest to get on the online interest list. And
Mhm.
this way I can notify you when we're ready to launch.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Fantastic. Well, we are going to move into three things with Cheryl. I'm going to ask you three questions that helps our audience get to know you even better. So the first one is a two-part question. How do you start and end the day?
Okay, well, if it's weekdays, I start most mornings taking a walk with my husband, Joe. And it's one of my favorite parts of the day because before all the emails and the to do lists and responsibilities start competing for attention, we just get a little time to connect and ease into the day together. Plus, I also get to check off that I exercised. So it's a walk. Um, and then, at the end of the day, you're usually gonna find me reading a book about personal growth, relationships, or friendship. I love ending the day by filling my mind with ideas that inspire me and challenge me or help me see things differently. And to me, it just feels like a positive way to close out the day and gives my brain something worthwhile to reflect on while I'm sleeping instead of
Mhm.
news or
Mhm.
negative things.
Yep.
And then somewhere in between all of that, there's usually a mean game of fetch, with my dog Wrigley, who, does a really amazing job of reminding me to stay present and enjoy the simple things, and that, of course, she's the center of the universe.
Now that I can agree with it. What's a goal, a current goal or intention that you're focusing on?
One of my biggest goals right now is bringing Connected Hearts online so
Mhm.
that women outside of North County, San Diego can experience what we've created. And again, as I was just sharing, there's a lot of these topics are universal. They're life issues. And I'm old school, right? It's like I like to meet in person. I like to talk on the phone. I'm not a
Mhm.
big social media gal, although, I'm on there. But
Mhm.
I think that technology can be used for good, and this is one of the ways. So the ability for you and I to be talking with each other today, even
Mhm.
though we are in different geography, I feel like Connected Hearts Online would be such a wonderful way of bringing people together from all over the country. And again, these connections can be cultivated even over a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing is, um, I think that another goal I'm focusing on is uh, not worrying about what other people think. So
Mhm.
again, it's the work in progress. And so I really am intentional about it. It's a struggle most days. I really, really have to think about it. I've had years and years of conditioning that
Mhm.
doesn't go away overnight. So
Yeah.
that's another goal is to get to a place where it hasn't disappeared because I know it probably never will, but to
Mhm.
get to a place where that voice is so quiet that it's not impacting my life in the way that it has. So,
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot. And the last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Honestly, I'm finding a lot of inspiration from the women around me.
Mhm.
I'm meeting so many women who are doing really brave things, starting over,
Mhm.
trying something new, facing their fears just like I am, and or simply just refusing to believe that the best years are behind them.
Right.
And that really inspires me every day. And I'm also really inspired by the conversations I've been having with these
Mhm.
women.
Mhm.
We all um, see somebody and we make a snap judgment
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
who they are and what. what they're all about.
Right.
And it's like usually 100% incorrect, you know? And so I really, I'm in awe of it. The stories that I'm hearing and the things that these women have done, the resilience and the bravery and the courage. I realize now what you see on the surface is usually not even close to who that woman really is. And so I'm really inspired by that.
Right. Awesome. I love it. Well, Cheryl, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing with the community. Such great insight. And, I mean, I think sometimes these are things that we know, right? But you have to hear it again and you have to hear
Yeah.
it from someone who's, practicing it. So I really enjoyed having you here today. And I do have one last question I'm going to ask before I let you go. And that is,
Okay.
what are three things you'd like for our listeners or watchers to take away from our conversation today?
Okay. Let's see. I would say the first one is connection doesn't happen by accident in adulthood. It happens through intention. Um, Being a good friend starts with being a good friend to yourself. And midlife is not about settling or declining. It's really about becoming more of who you really are and creating a life that reflects it.
Oh, I love those. Those are excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Cheryl. You can always come back here and share with our community in the future.
Thank you, Kyra. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. All right, welcome back. And let's thank Cheryl for joining us today. I love the name Funderful Experience. This is so awesome. But so many great nuggets in our conversation today. So make sure you check out the links in the show notes to learn more about her, about Funderful Experiences and Connected Hearts. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, we are at glowupgirl.com. Go there and make sure you sign up for our newsletter to get more tools and inspiration on your own personal glow up journeys. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at Glow Up Girl, and wherever you are listening, make sure you rate, review, and share. It just helps more people to find us. And if you have social that we should see and you want us to cheer you on, make sure you tag us. All right, and as I mentioned before, Cheryl came into the chat. That free resource, it's called Own Your Story, and it's a free 20-minute reflection guide I created to help you uncover your story, find the clarity, and figure out where to take it next. 9 prompts, totally free. Download it at glowupgirl.com. Make sure you look up top for Own Your Story. The link is also in the show notes. And all right, and if you're a brand looking to partner with this community, make sure you reach out at hello@glowupgirl.com. All right, thanks to Cheryl again, and thanks to you all for your support and for always showing up and taking time out of your schedules, wherever you may be in the world, to listen or to watch our episodes. I greatly appreciate all of you. All right, so my friends, thank you, thank you, thank you again. And until next time, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.